So, good morning, everyone. Just a few seconds that we let everyone join the meeting, and I start. So, I think we are set. So, good morning, everyone, again, and thank you for joining us to this new event in CLIMAAX Community of Practice. My name is Fulvio Vidal from the Euro-Mediterranean Center on Climate Change, and today I'll be moderating the event with my colleagues Majid Niaskar, Dana Stuparu, and we are very happy that today's meeting will dedicate it to the Heatwave risk assessments, where we will learn from regions who apply the CLIMAAX hazard workflow, so the toolbox. So before we start, just a few housekeeping rules as usual. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Feel free to turn off your camera and please keep your mic off during the presentation. Meanwhile, we encourage you to post your questions and comments throughout the event using the chat. You can find this at the bottom of the Zoom screen, or raise your hand to contribute to the discussion during a dedicated time, because we will have ample time to discuss and pose questions to our speaker. Also note that we are going to, the recording will be available later on, so don't worry if you miss something. So here is the agenda for today. After this quick introduction, we'll begin with Martin Kuban from Kayo Services. Martin has been a leading expert behind the Heatwaves workflow development and will introduce us to the workflow, its rationale, structure, and tailored use for regional and local assessments. Following this introduction, we will have two presentations, so two speakers showcasing the regional experiences in using and adapting the workflow, integrating local data and context-sensitive information for local and regional assessment. So first of all, the Comunidade Intermunicipal das Beiras e Serra de Estrela in Portugal. I apologize for my pronunciation. With Joao Santos from Green Matrix, and second, the experience from Antalya Metropolitan Municipality in Turkey, presented by Fulya Kandemir. Then, after this presentation, we will move into the more interactive part with Q&A and discussion moment moderated with my colleagues in CLIMAAX, Majid Niaskar from CNCC and Dana Stuparu from Deltares. And we will close around noon with some closing remarks and the next appointments in our community. So before we dive in, for those joining for the first time today, I'd like to remind you that this community of practice represents a space for knowledge exchange and learning, but also peer support and co-design involving practitioners that share a common interest and challenge in climate risk assessment. We organize usually events and activities that try to address both the technical and social-political or social dimensions of climate risk assessment in ways that respond to what matters most to members. So with events that directly respond to your inputs, requests, and priorities. So today we are very happy to announce that this event marks the start of a new season for this community of practice with a new series of hazard-specific webinars that are devoted to dedicated hazard assessment tools, the so-called hazard workflows in CLIMAAX. And each sessions from now on will dive deep into a toolbox component with regions supported and funded by the project, presenting their experiences so that we can learn directly from first-hand practitioners and engage in conversation with those end users that in turn are taking the ownership of and sometimes extend or refine or adapt these tools for local and regional specific climate risk assessment. So, since we are launching this new series, it's useful also to remind that in the last year we have been doing thematic webinars and workshops on a range of phases of climate risk assessment process, spanning almost the full spectrum to support practitioners in their journey for climate risk assessment and management. So we address the practical application of the CLIMAAX framework and toolbox in pilot regions, but also how to meaningfully engage citizens and stakeholders, and how to communicate climate risk by translating complex data in and workflow outputs into actionable knowledge to raise awareness, but also to engage stakeholders and inform decision making. But also, we address the part on mobilizing finance for adaptation. So, what to do next the assessment by exploring financial instruments and practical tools to navigate adaptation finance. And we also organized hands-on session on new tools developed within CLIMAAX. First of all, a dashboard to help practitioners assess the regional climate model biases and scenario uncertainties to identify the most suitable models and scenarios, and another one to support practitioners in the interpretation and prioritization of results from the hazards workflow results and bridge the gap between risk analysis and decision making using what is called the key risk assessment, a step in the framework that now has a dedicated dashboard. So throughout these events, we built synergies with and leverage the knowledge from the mission on adaptation and other European adaptation projects to make sure we provide and the community benefits from the best available knowledge and experiences and resources. So all these sessions are available on YouTube. You can find them in our website and community section if you want to catch up or you are looking for key guidance on good practices. Um, that being said, now we are approaching the final part of the project. So we are trying to move into a consolidation phase and transition from a project-driven community to a self-sustaining community. This phase has the ambition of ensuring long-term value and impact and respond to community requests through different activities and means. First of all, the regional showcase webinars and dialogues. So what we called hazard specific and workflow specific webinars, this new series where we have experiences and lessons learned from regional climate risk assessment and promoting exchange and dialogue between developers and regional practitioners, but also a dedicated online community forum. So a new space for peer-to-peer knowledge and experience sharing that you are invited to visit and start using. I think the link will be shared in the chat, but also planning joint events or activities with European climate services projects in Europe, fostering awareness, collaboration, and synergies on this. So this is for us a crucial step. We are trying to move beyond the traditional developer and user model and try to support practitioners in taking ownerships of the resources that have been developed and tested in CLIMAAX to ensure long-term building. So after this very quick but also longish introduction, I want to start this meeting without further ado. So with our first speaker, Martin Kuban. As I said, he has been a key expert behind the development of the Heatwave workflow. Martin is a hydrologist and climate risk analyst with a PhD in water resources management from the Slovak University of Technology in Bratislava. His work focuses on rainfall runoff modeling, the impacts of climate change and water resources, and the use of remote sensing data in hydrological and climate risk analysis. So thank you, Martin, for joining us today. You are a regular speaker here. I remind everyone that we'll have a part of the webinar dedicated to Q&A and discussion. So don't forget to drop your question in the chat as these come to you, as we will gather these and address in the dedicated moment altogether. So Martin, thanks. The floor is yours. I'll stop sharing my screen so you can.
Thank you, Julio. Now I will share my screen. Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yes, perfect.
So
Thank
I can
you.
start. So hello everyone. As Julio said, my name is Martin Kuban, and now I will briefly describe the Heatwave workflow. This presentation is mainly aimed for the people who never use the CLIMAAX Heatwave workflow. So you can find the description of the workflow on the handbook webpage on the CLIMAAX, and the code is available on CLIMAAX GitHub, where you can find all codes and clone it and work it from your computer. So I will start with the quick motivation why we choose this workflow. So based on the multiple climate scenarios, we expect the increase in the heat wave occurrence in the future. This increase will amplify the negative impact on human health. And this impact can be reduced by mitigation measures. So we can do something with that. This workflow is mainly tailored for the region without resources or skill to start their own climate risk assessment. And there is a possibility to use local data. So this workflow is relatively easy to update or upgrade. The structure of the Heatwave workflow is based from 3 parts. The first one is the Heatwave risk description markdown file, when you can find the brief description of the methodology and the data sources. The second part is the Heatwave hazard assessment, where you can find the 2 workflows. The first one is based on the Euroheat methodology, where you the data comes with the fixed temperature and duration thresholds in a yearly time step from 1986 to 2085. And this data comes from the ensemble of the regional climate models for RCP 4.5 and 9.5. The XCLIM package is, you have more possibility to change it or set the thresholds for days and temperature. And data come in a daily time step. These come also with a high volume of the data that we need to download. So the one run is only for one regional climate model, but of course you can use it multiple times and do it as many times as you want. I think there is in total more than 8 regional climate models. The last part is the Heatwave risk assessment workflows. And this comes for the regional level and for the local level. The regional level is based on the Euroheat data, and the local level is based on the satellite data. So firstly, I start with the Heatwave hazard assessment, which is based on the Euroheat and XCLIM package. The Euroheat data is more like a displaying service of the raw Euroheat data. So you can select your area, display the results, and save the data. The XCLIM package, you can go more into deep of these workflows. So you can set the temperature threshold and duration thresholds, and also plot the data and export it to your computer. The Heatwave risk assessment for the regional level, it combines the Euroheat data, which you can see here, with the vulnerable population density data, which is based from the world POP data. And as a result, with the use of the READS metrics, you can get the map which combines those 2. The Heatwave risk assessment workflow for the local level is based on the land surface temperature data, which comes from the Landsat 8 satellite imagery, and combine it also with the population density data from the world POP. And also with the use of the recent metrics, you can get the results. For this part of the workflow, is highly recommended to use also the local data to highlight the most critical places in your area. It is the most important part is the understanding of these workflow results. So this workflow try to answer the 3 questions of how often we can expect the heat waves in the future. And it is important to see to understand the magnitude of change of the heat wave occurrence. Then where should we expect the highest change? This is mainly part of the risk workflow for the regional level. And these workflows focus on the region with highest concentration of the vulnerable population and the largest projection increase in the heatwave occurrence. The last part is where we should reduce the negative impact. For this one is the best the risk workflow for the local level, which can be helpful for the identifying of the heat islands in your city. Then you can combine the heat exposure with the high density of the vulnerable population. You can add your local data, as I said, and at the end you can check the influence of the adaptation measures. So you can build the adaptation measures and run it again and see if there is an influence of these adaptation measures. So that is all from my side.
Thanks a lot, Martin, for this nice introduction about the main motivation behind this workflow and also how this has been shaped. So this stage, of course, I remind you that you can use the chat to drop your question to our speaker. And meanwhile, we will gather these and address in the dedicated moment. So thanks a lot again, Martin. And then we can move to our next two speakers. So Martin presented the workflow that has been developed within CLIMAAX, and now we are going to hear more about the regional experiences in using and refining this workflow or adapting it with local data. So first of all, we have João Santos from GreenMetrics. He is a data scientist where at GreenMetrics AI, where he works on CLIMAAX project for 3 Portuguese regions. So it's likely possible that we will hear from him again. So of these 3 regions, the regions that is showcased is Beirut and Sierra de Estrela. So Joao is developing data-driven tools to assess and reduce climate risk, and at GreenMetrics AI, he applies advanced analytics to integrate satellite data, IoT sensor networks, and artificial intelligence models to support early flood detection and climate resilience planning for public authorities. So the company where he is working is a pioneering climate tech startup focused on using intelligent sensing and predictive algorithms to help cities and regions anticipate floods, protect communities, and adapt critical infrastructure to a changing climate. Then we will have Dr. Fulya Kandemir is a climate scientist and senior expert at the Climate Change and Zero Waste Department of Antalya Metropolitan Municipality in Turkey, and she serves as the municipal project lead for 2 major international initiatives. First of all, CLIMAAX Muhir, so from CLIMAAX as a project in CLIMAAX, and then the Net Zero Cities Twinning Program Antalya, Bucharest. She also contributes as a senior expert to various other climate adaptation and resilience projects, and her work focuses on climate risk assessment, urban island, coastal vulnerability, nature-based solutions, and the integration of science into local climate policy. She earned her PhD from the Solar Energy Institute at the Hitch University and graduated in physics from the same university with a specialization in theoretical physics. She has an interdisciplinary expertise that spans theoretical modeling, environmental science, and municipal governance. And so, first of all, thanks again, Joao and Fulia, for joining us today and for sharing your learning and discussing your experience with CLIMAAX. We will start with Joao with the experience from the region Beiras and Serra de Estrela. Hope he's gonna pronunciate the region again because of course I'm missing something. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and the floor is yours, Joao, and then we will move with Fulia.
Well, thank you. My name is João. I'm a data scientist here at GreenMetrics, and we've been doing the CLIMAAX project for some of the Portuguese regions. One of them being da Comunidade Intermunicipal da Região das Beiras e Serra da Estrela. And I'll showcase the work we've done for the Heatwaves workflow. So, giving you a little introduction about the region, I think I'll have to do it like this. Região da Beira e Serra da Estrela is a region in the interior of Portugal, the central interior. It borders Spain and it's localized a bit there. It's mostly mountainous, so there's a lot of mountain ranges and there's a lot of forests. So the two selected workflows were for Heatwaves, which is a big problem in some of the municipalities, and wildfires. So just building on the introduction, it spans over 6,000 square kilometers, and there's approximately 210,000 residents in some urban hotspots, in some urban zones. So there's around 4 decently big cities, and the rest is mostly rural. So, into giving you the key points of the region, it has an aging and vulnerable demographic profile, as most of Portugal has. Portugal is a quickly aging country. It's mostly mountainous terrain, so there's the biggest mountain range in continental Portugal. Serra da Estrela is in the Beiras and Serra da Estrela region. So there's a lot of altitude, and some of the rural zones are in the mountain. It's relatively low density. Here in Portugal, we only have 2 high density cities, so it's relatively low density. It's for a territory, only having 210 residents for a whole district. And it's already suffering from some of the extreme events which are being studied for the region. So, such as heat waves, there's a lot of heat in the summer, and wildfires, as it's one of the mainly affected regions for wildfires here in Portugal. So just giving you a reason why this was selected. It was mostly because of the vulnerable population. So there's a lot of elderly residents, young children, and also young children. So we're studying the health related impacts of heat, of how projections will affect the current residing population. So the approach is mostly focused in public health planning and adaptation measures, and there's also a lot of analysis done in this phase 2, which are focused on urban planning as well. So, for example, a lot of it is focused on green zones and on having vegetation to mitigate some of the heat-related effect. Just giving you a quick overview of the results we had for phase 1. Using both pathways, the workflow you're all familiar with. Using both pathways, we've got for the RCP 4.5 in the long-term projections, we have an increase of 350% around that, and then for the RCP 8.5 on the same time period, you have a projection of an evolution of heat waves in the 500%. So there's a lot of zones that are really exposed to this. As you can see on the map, without context, it's a bit hard to explain to you, but this is the mountain region, the Serra Estrela, and this eastern part is the one that borders Spain. These are mostly the affected regions. A lot of the main urban hotspots are around Serra da Estrela, so this is somewhat this will affect the main urban cities and the main cities of the region. We also focus a lot, being a rural area, we also focus a lot in giving names and enabling the stakeholders to actually know which zones will be most affected. So we did some geocoding of the villages and towns which would be most affected by these changes. So we've used some national data to actually discover where the edified zones, where the villages are and where the towns are, and then seeing which are most affected above the mean of the whole region. So giving a mean of the whole region, which are the most affected zones, and giving them names. So we actually get a process, we get a report which gives you the names and the relative change for heat waves across all combinations of period and scenario. This was one of the first things we did for this second phase. So this was using national data to actually give names and to actually localize the effort. Besides that, these small towns are usually associated with population risk. There's a lot of these rural areas are mostly inhabited by elderly people. So we also use the World Pop data set to do what the workflow recommends, what the workflow does, which is give a vulnerable population risk and then cross it out with the relative chain hazard risk, hazard classification. Another thing we did, which is also in the workflow, but we did it our own way, is the LST mapping. So the land surface temperature mapping, and actually identifying hot spots and hot zones in each of the cities and in each of the urban areas. We mostly focus this on urban areas, so it's clipped by the national data set of urban areas, and then we did some mapping inside of it. And with this, we can identify some of the mostly we can at an eye level identify some of the aggravating causes for high temperatures. For example, here we have, I think it's a park. It's a parking. It's a parking spot. It's parking spots for a commercial zone. So we can see that this has a really negative impact, and this is one of the hottest zones. We also distributed the data so we can follow the normal distribution. It's not a perfect normal distribution, but it usually follows a normal distribution where um, we have a deviation. We have a really big deviation. So the first points are from 36 degrees and the last ones are from 36 degrees. So we have a deviation of data with almost with 10 degrees between the same localized city, so within in the same zone in the map. So it's a really localized difference, and we can assert some effect from the urban planning and from the way the town is spread um, to actually identify some of the causes of these high temperatures. Just giving you a little bit of context, it's written there, but this data was used for it's a mean of the whole of summer of 2024. So it was I think it was from Landsat. So we've used the NASA satellite, and the NASA satellite we took every data point from the summer of 2024, starting June, ending in September, and we did a mean of all of them. So the first thing we decided to do, and this was discussed with stakeholders, and the stakeholders actually had decided this would be one of the most valuable things we could do with the data, is analyze the vegetation effect. So being localized, and this is changes from city to city, the exact effect of temperature. We're doing an historical comparison correlation between the existence of green areas, of green zones, of vegetation, and low and high surface temperatures. So we can do so the stakeholders have some data to actually do some planning about this at the municipal level. So which trees to plant, where to plant them, how can we mitigate the temperatures using vegetation. So we decided to do this study. The way we did it is a bit simple, but we work with the NDVI, the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, to actually classify what is a green zone, where is the vegetation, and then we just cross this map out with we just cross the data with the land surface temperatures maps, so we can see how this NDVI affects the land surface temperature at those zones. So just giving you a little overview, this is a map of the vegetation in where is Estrela. It's the vegetation index, and then the first thing we did was we needed to actually know what would classify as a green zone or not. So we did this automatically. We used a clustering algorithm, which just a k-means clustering with k equals 2. So it just identifies a threshold where things can divide. We used every there's two methods we use for this. One of them, we only use the urban zones. So we dismiss the whole forest and the rural zones, which would have naturally higher NDVIs, and we focus only on the urban zones. So in the urban environment, what would be classified as having vegetation or not? And the other method was we did with the whole map. We used the whole map. We used forests, and it gave us a more conservative threshold for what is vegetation. So for what is a green zone. These two methods are repeated along the whole of this analysis of the whole of this process we made, and they give a bit different results, as one of them is more conservative and the other one isn't. So it's just a threshold difference. So giving you a little visualization of how this changes. So the left one is the more liberal one, the one that used only urban zones to classify what is vegetation, what isn't. This one we could see on the map that, for example, one tree would classify as having as being a green zone, while on the right there's a lot of trees and streets and in the region which aren't classified as a vegetation index as a green zone, because it's not, the NDVI isn't as high as a forest, as somewhere where it's only green land. So these are the differences. This is the main thing we have, the difference between the both methods, and then we can actually analyze the results from both of these methods of classification. So the first thing we did is simple. It's what's the difference in temperature from using this NDV equals 0 and this NDV equals 1. This is for the city of Guarda, which is one of the main cities. It's the district capital for the district of Guarda, and how the temperatures change depending on this NDV classification we did. So for the red zones here are the ones that didn't pass the threshold, that didn't pass the NDVI threshold, and the green ones are the ones that passed the threshold. So we can see there's a difference. There's a big difference in the distribution there's a big difference in the distribution of these temperatures. So for the more liberal one, we can see it's the earth move resistance is 0.4, so the difference is around 0.4 degrees, which is the earth move resistance is on average how much does each point of data in one distribution need to move to be in the other distribution. So the mean, it's 0.4, so there's a bit of a change. There's clearly a change in the distribution, but it's not as impactful as when we're more conservative about what is a green zone, and then we can see this effect being higher. So we have a 0.7, 0.8 earth move resistance. So this one is only focused on each square. As I said, we use the Landsat. We use Landsat 9 for land surface temperature, and then we use the Sentinel-2 data for NDVI. So the squares are around 10 meters by 10 meters. So each of these squares is evaluated at 10 meters by 10 meters. Then we decided not only to study the effect of vegetation in that square, but also study the neighboring effect. So if we're not at the green zone, but the neighboring square is a green zone, how does this affect the temperature? The same thing that happened in the slide before. The more conservative one has a clear difference between all the neighbors. So when there's no neighboring green zones, we have the highest temperatures, and then we go down and we go lower with how many more neighbors are in this are surrounding the region. One of the things that happens here, which is there's not a lot of non-green zones which are in the middle of all green zones. So the higher the neighboring, the lower the density of data, the lower frequency we have of this happening. So there's a lot of distributions here which are really skewed because they're not enough to do a sample, a real sample. But the effect is clear. The more neighbors we have of green zones, the more neighboring vegetation, the lower the temperatures in the zones. We also decided to evaluate the distances at which we see temperature influences. So this one also changes drastically between the thresholds, the classification median, the classification method. So we've plotted what's the temperature and the distance to the nearest green space. So we can see that this follows a clear trend line of the higher distance to the green space, the higher the temperature. And we have a big range of temperatures here. So we go from 37 to 37, and this follows a clear correlation and a clear trend line. For the urban zones of the region, there's a lot of one thing this graph doesn't have that the other ones do. The other ones are localized. This one isn't. This one is for all the urban zones in the entire region. So there's a lot of geographical constraints and a lot of geographical relations. We're going to in the report and in the public repository, we're going to do one of these for each of the cities. But for this demonstration purpose, we're doing all of them lumped together, which there's a lot of geographical constraints and a lot of geographical differences between each of them, which also affect the temperature and the land surface temperature. But the effect is clear. If distance to a green space goes up, the temperature also goes up. And for the Beiras and Serra da Estrela region, we decided this influence was until around 140 meters, and at 140 meters it plateaus if we only consider the urban zone. So if you do the more liberal classification method, the other one, the more conservative one, has a plateau at just the 250 meters mark, and it goes drastically up in between the 150 and the 250 meters. So this part was what we did with the vegetation, how we study the effect of vegetation. This one was to help urban planning and help urban stakeholders and initiative stakeholders to plan where to plant trees, how to plant them, which trees how to plant. So that this one will come in the third phase of this project, this discussion. Afterwards, we also study the effect of using the urban planning data set for Portugal. We also study how high the temperatures are in each of the classes normally associated with urban planning. It's in Portuguese. Our data sets are mostly in Portuguese, the national ones. So I'll try to translate some of them. So the first three ones are mostly residential areas. The first four ones, so mostly residential areas here: the red, the green, the orange, and the gray. So we can see here at the orange extremities of the part, this is mostly residential. The red part is mostly residential. So these four classes are related with different types of residential areas. So buildings, houses in close proximity, houses in higher proximity. So these are mostly residential. And then we have the industry at yellow, which is only on the periphery of the city. Industry, commerce, which is in blue, so around the center of the city. These are mostly big malls and big commerce areas, not really the small shops. And these are mostly associated with parking lots, with a lot of I eat zones associated with this commerce thing. And then
Joel, sorry,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt. Since we have a few minutes more, if you could
yeah, I'll
speed
go.
up. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah,
We'll have
I'll,
also time to further discuss later on.
okay. So just going up, we did the distribution of land surface temperature for all of these classes of territory, and we associated some of them with much higher temperatures. For example, the industrial areas have a big peak at highest temperatures, while the residential areas usually keep inside the 20 something LST value. So we also did this classification method for non-urban zones. This was at the request of one of our partners in one of the regions. So we decided to expand to all of them, which is to study how much does the heat wave and how much does the land surface temperature go up in certain types of rural vegetation of forestry. So we can also cross this with fire hazards. So with wildfire hazards. This is mostly geographically locked, so a lot of the deviation from each of these classes is from geography and from where in the region they're mostly localized. But we also did this distribution for all of shrublands, temporary dryland, etc. So this was most of the work done for Heatwaves, and some of the key findings we did for this. The first one came from the first phase. So this region is exposed to heat right now, and it only shows the problem is to worsen over time. We identified problematic heat-prone zones, and now we've classified them. So now we've crossed them with national data to know which one of them, which zones are the most problematic. So, for example, as I said earlier, industry zones are the most problematic. Not being residential, there's not a lot of people there, but people work there. So there's a lot of heat-related incidents associated with work and with outdoors work. And vegetation effect on temperature. So we've actually classified and tried to give a correlation and to give some data related with how vegetation affects temperature. And as I said before, which land use classes are susceptible to higher temperatures. Just to give you some of the data sources we've used, it's the last three ones are national. The first four ones are what's used at the CLIMAAX workflow right now. So Eurocordex for the projection data, World POP, Landsat for the land surface temperature, Sentinel for the NDVI. We've used the products already. We didn't calculate them from the bands. We used the products which are already calculated. And then for the residential agglomerates where the edified zones, we used a Carta de Idades Edificadas 2018. It's from one of our public entities. And then the same thing for lugares 2021 e Carta de Ocupação de Solo. Carta de Ocupação de Solo is a substitute for CORIN. It's a national substitute for CORIN, which is a bit more localized and focused more on the classes present in Portugal. And with this, I'm finished.
Thank you so much, Joao. I think that the job you have been doing is terrific, and you deliver a very comprehensive presentation of this. So there are a few questions popping up, but as I said, we will, let's say, address this in a later phase. Also, for the sake of time, I have also some question for you. But I think that the job was terrific, and it is key that you highlight how these results from the assessment could and are informing the consequential planning for adaptation and risk management. So without further ado, for the sake of time, I'll ask Fulya Kandemir to join us, and the floor is yours, Fulya, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much. Can I share my screen first? Yes. Can you see my screen clearly?
Yeah, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for this invitation and for this opportunity to talk about our experience in CLIMAAX ecosystem, actually. I'm Dr. Fulya Kandemir from Antalya Metropolitan Municipality Climate Change and Zero Waste Department, and I will talk about some of our experience about CLIMAAX consortium, CLIMAAX ecosystem, and also about our project outputs, project management. We are calling the project MUHIR of Antalya Metropolitan Municipality, strategies for mitigating the urban heat island effect in Antalya, integrating high resolution local data for enhanced climate resilience, our project name in CLIMAAX. And actually this is experience platform now. We are sharing our experiences in these meetings, and I want to talk about our backgrounds, our experiences, and our results after our CLIMAAX Toolbox, what we found, not in detail because I have some time restrictions, I know. I will try to feed myself to the presentation framework and also timeline of the webinar and event, and I want to do my best for understand our experiences. First of all, I want to start with who we are. Actually, we are Antalya Metropolitan Municipality. You can see our team here. In the purple writings, you can see all of the municipal experts working in CLIMAAX MUHIR platform in municipality. We are not receiving any paid consultancy, I can say, because we, first of all, after our proposal accepted by CLIMAAX, we tried to improve our internal capacity, internal capability to do something about climate climate risk assessment, and we choose the people from municipality, the right people from the municipality to work CLIMAAX platform. You can see in the purple writings, and also we have in the red line, red color, you can see two academics, Nusret Demir and Murat Turkesh. They are voluntarily working with us. They're from the universities, but this is just like the ecosystem of the Muhir. We're working voluntarily with nonprofit, and everyone wants to make something. Everyone wants to make something for Muhir and CLIMAAX environment, for Antalya and for Antalya's resilience, actually, I can say. And the dark blue color, you can see some of our authorities, head of climate change department, head of project management department, and also our advisor of mayor. They're helping with their authority for the Muhir's progress in the municipality, to do something in municipality, and also to do something with the public people in CLIMAAX platform. Our team is a little bit crowded, but you can see all of the mentionings I will have in this event created by this municipal staff, I can say. We wrote the proposal and accepted by CLIMAAX, and now we are working together at the same time, sometimes separated, but always together. We're working to understand first CLIMAAX methodology, CLIMAAX framework, and then discussing all of the results after CLIMAAX Toolbox with municipal staff and also with our volunteer academics. And our engagement to the CLIMAAX, I can say, only for about heat waves. Because we are focusing to heat waves phenomenon and also urban heat island impact, because Antalya is located in Mediterranean basin, and we are encountering with so many climate change disasters, climate change based disasters, and all of the disasters based on the extreme heat, we can say, and heat waves and urban heat island impact because of the texture of the city. We should focus. We decided before writing the proposal, and we tried to focus in the CLIMAAX proposal, in the CLIMAAX environment, only heat wave and urban heat island impact. You can see here the comprehensive analysis we did. I don't want to give so many details because I have some time restrictions, but I want to give our experiences with all of the sub methodologies in the heat wave workflow, hazard assessment about your heat methodology, hazard assessment about XCLIM methodology, risk assessment using satellite-based data, and risk assessment using Antalya model with the satellite-based, and also some global climate models and regional climate models. Here are some of our backgrounds. Actually, Antalya has some backgrounds about the disaster management and disaster evaluation. You can see here in the lines. The first is about AFAD. AFAD is a national authority about the disaster management, and Antalya Metropolitan Municipality is always working the national authorities. You can see here Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction Plan published in 2021, and heat wave not totally focused in this plan, but forest fires and extreme heat, they actually worked in this plan, and Antalya Metropolitan Municipality was actually participant or associated and main participant of this risk reduction plan. And also we have another plan coming from AFAD again. This is the national authority I said. This is about the Antalya's disaster reduction plan and also adaptation plan published in 2021. This is a little bit different from Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction Plan. And also we have CCAP, Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan. Actually, writing a proposal for CLIMAAX comes from the CCAP, because we have some priorities in Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan. And you can see here in the right side some action areas. One action area you can see ecosystem services, biodiversity and green species, and we have a priority here, E1, preparation of vulnerability maps in the context of urban heat island. Actually, we added heat wave analysis to this priority, and we decided to write our proposal according to this priority. You can see the scores, action severity score between 1 and 5. 5 is highest, and this priority has 4.37 37 score in the priority level, and actually we tried to choose this priority to understand heat wave characteristics of the city from past to present, and also future projections. And also when we combined urban heat island impact and heat waves, how can we go on, how can we make our future progresses to adaptate the city to be climate ready region, as CLIMAAX says actually. And also we have some CITAS law reports. Antalya is a member of CITAS law, that means slow city, and Antalya Metropolitan Municipality is working CITAS law ecosystem also. CITAS law needs some urban heat island maps and vulnerability assessments to create some slow city criteria, and we actually worked about this in 2024. I can actually summarize our backgrounds and experiences about climate risk assessment or evaluation of the steps as a official manner. And also we have some individual efforts or ambitions in municipality. You can see in the bottom one of the scientific paper wrote by some of the team members in Muhir of Antalya Metropolitan Municipality. We published this paper in 2021, and this was very comprehensive analysis for Turkey, and Antalya is included too to this paper. Actually, this paper just like the milestone to write this proposal with CCAP for the Antalya Metropolitan Municipality. And also our Geographic Information Systems Department has some individual ambitions to create and reveal some urban heat island impact maps for the city. You can see some of the efforts from the municipality. I said before, our team and our team's capability actually showed this, all of the efforts to you now in this actually community of practice platform. And I want to talk about Elevate Our City. In CLIMAAX platform, we saw all of the cities are unique, and all of the cities have some or different climate change disasters, climate change related impacts in their places. And Antalya is just like this. Antalya is located Mediterranean basin. You can see here in the red color, this is the map of the distribution of the disasters in meteorological manner. This published by Meteorological Institute of the Turkey. And you can see here in the red color, Antalya has always records about the distribution of the meteorological disasters. And this is why we are focusing to all of the mitigation and adaptation efforts and understanding climate change impacts in the city because of this red color. You can see this publications map. This is 10 years between 2010 and 2021. They published this paper and this map, and Antalya is really vulnerable to all of the climate change impacts I will now count in this slide. And you can see here some climate change impacts in Antalya. Actually, our population is so high, approximately 2.7 million stable residents we have. Also, we are hosting, you can see here, 27 million tourists per year. That means so many people are coming to the city and so many people is staying this city too. 70 million foreign and 10 million domestic tourists we are hosting in a year, and this is so high. And that means serving to the people, stable residents, and also tourists. As a metropolitan municipality, with the district municipalities collaboration, this is very, very high effort you need to do something. And if you have more population, if you have longer coastline, just like here, approximately 640 kilometers coastline, that means you should manage all of the coastlines under the pollution issues, under the misuse issues. You should manage all of the coastline issues as a metropolitan municipality. This is under our responsibility too, just like the climate change mitigation and adaptation topics. And that means so many efforts you should do at the same time. And also, if you have some climate change impacts, just like invasive species, if you are encountered with, just like lionfish and balloonfish, now this, because of the increasing sea level temperature, now we are encountering the invasive species at our seas. And also if you encounter with forest fires, for example, in 2021, we encountered with mega forest fire, and we lost at the same forest fire approximately 70,000 hectares in the same district. And this is very, very much area about the losing forest. And this is about the extreme heat again, and also drought risk. Now, drought risk we are observing in our city. Our city is relying on totally groundwater resources, and we should manage for the actually next generations to use the water clearly. And this is very important for serving the people, accessing to day to access to clear water, safe water to use and to drink. And also biodiversity loss. I said before, we are encountering with forest fires, also we are encountering with invasive species too. That means biodiversity loss, all competition between the habitats or the animals or fauna and flora, and decreasing of the ecosystem services. You should manage all of the, actually you should combat with all of the climate change impacts with high effort as metropolitan municipality, with collaboration, the other institutions. I will say in the next slides, this collaboration will be very, very efficient for Antalya. Actually, we had some evidences about this collaboration thing. I will explain, but we should first of all understand our cities and our city's pattern. You can see here some of the climate change impacts, some of the distribution of the disasters in the city, and the city's beauty. City is unique. We can understand, but for adaptation and mitigation actions, first of all, you should understand your climate pattern, your climate change pattern, and then you should take action. And I said before, we have some official works. You can see here as a summary of a provincial disaster risk mitigation plan published in 2021, and also you can see here Antalya's risk reduction plan and adaptation plan, adaptation action plan from AFAD and Antalya Metropolitan Municipality, and our milestone sustainable energy and climate action plan published in 2022. We have some backgrounds, we have some capabilities, but also we have some challenges. Actually, in CLIMAAX platform or in CLIMAAX, during the CLIMAAX project, we understood this challenge so clearly because first of all, we saw that many local governmental efforts you saw here as plans, but not combined. Even scientific efforts. So many individual scientific efforts, but not combined for the future steps. Searching for a holistic approach supported by scientific evidences. This is very important now. We are trying to reach to this holistic approach using CLIMAAX Toolbox and using CLIMAAX framework and also IDEA. For our city, and convincing the public about the heat waves, public about urban heat island impact and land use, maybe mixed land use, for example. Convincing the public, this is very, very challenging thing actually, and now we are actually we are overcoming these problems using the CLIMAAX results, because scientific evidences, clear scientific evidences, should open all of the gates actually to do something for the adaptation actions for the future. And we have actually climate risk assessment framework and experiences in Antalya. I want to talk about a little bit this issue. We have some scopes, temporal scopes, modeling scopes, and data scope. For temporal scope, we want to understand change from the past to the present, and we want to reveal future projections. And also we want to do multiple global climate models and regional climate models for local calibration. This is not a country-based study. This is local study, and you should calibrate all of the studies in a local manner, and it is very important to understand everything clearly in your city. And data scope, actually we want to understand our meteorological parameters with handbook values of CLIMAAX, local values, and other international database values. We want to understand all of the climate heat wave pattern and also urban heat island impact pattern. Risk evaluation, actually I said before, we are focusing heat waves and urban heat island impact, and we have some key risk assessment for methods to hazard assessments, to risk assessments, and we have some approaches to this project, to this process actually. The first is institutional management, to establish a project team. This is very important, your internal capacity, and improve your capability person by person in the municipality. And address risk, for example. If you encounter with some risk, you should handle it and you should manage it. We are in the municipality, and team members, you can see in the second word, team members voluntarily working in this project despite the municipality's workload, and this is the risk actually. And if you manage this risk clearly, you can take the results very understandably and clearly, and at time, on time, you can take all of the results. For example, one of the team member now will be out from the project team because of some health issues, and that means a risk for the team member and for the process of the CLIMAAX project of the Antalya Metropolitan Municipality. But actually we have some estimations for the risk management, and now we handle this risk because we have backgrounds of some technical people and the team membership in team, and now the person will be out, are transferring all of know-how of CLIMAAX to the other people in the team of CLIMAAX Muhir in Antalya Metropolitan Municipality. It means you can go on easily with this transferably know-how. And collaboration to ensure stakeholder participation. It is also our approach to the process, and co-governance approach with higher authorities. Not only Antalya Metropolitan Municipality is responsible to take action about heat waves. We should be together. Now we are transferring this idea to all of the institutions in Antalya, in the city, such as the governor's office. We are inviting the higher authorities to take an action about the adaptation plans and also to be climate-ready region.
Sorry to interrupt, Julia, sorry to interrupt. Just a note about accelerating or jumping to the results. We have half an hour remaining to the webinar, and we want to get your message and your presentation.
Okay, I can do it. Actually, I'm trying to fit myself to the timeline, but sometimes I have some ambitions to say something about our experience. Sorry for that. I will jump a little bit. For example, I will jump this slide, and I will jump. I don't want to jump this slide because to talk about a little bit our methodology, we used actually, I said before, for methodology to hazard, to risk, and also we want to do. We want to use some data sets, actually Copernicus data sets, climate data store we used from ECM WF, and we use WordPop data. We used actually NASA Next GDP data. I said before, we want to compare all of the results, not only from Copernicus data sets or local data sets. We want to use also another data set to comprehensive comparison between the results. And also we used our local meteo data sets about the maximum temperature, minimum temperature. Actually, my colleague talked before. I don't want to repeat again and again. We used our local meteo data sets, and also we use Jupyter Hub for our analysis, Quantum GIS for some climate pilot plots, and also some visualization from S3 ArcGIS Pro. And this is our first result from Euroheat. Actually, I showed in our methodology we use 2 hazard and 2 risk assessments. One hazard assessment belongs to Euroheat methodology. This is just like default because we have no nationwide definition. We have health-related EU-wide definition as Antalya, and you can see here the results for Muratpaşa region. It is the central region of Antalya, and you can see here for results from RCP 4.5, RCP 8.5 with the apparent temperature, and you can see the breaking line in 2040 in RCP for RCP 4.5 and RCP 8.5. Number of heat waves will be increased until 2100, and this is very important to understand as an apparent temperature. But the other result is about from the XClim. This is the actually highlighting point for us, understanding the heat wave characteristics of the city. You can see here the default CLIMAAX Toolbox definition about the heat wave indicators. For example, heat wave index, heat wave frequency, and the total number of heat wave days. But the thresholds we used here, CLIMAAX Toolbox definition, default definition, between 25 degrees and 29 degrees. And this is actually not actually presenting the Antalya's nature of these thresholds, and we decided to find our local thresholds to local calibration. You can see here some of the calculations for day thresholds, night thresholds from Meteo data sets and NextGDP NASA data sets. You can see here our thresholds ranging between 25.6 degrees and 25.89 degrees from NASA and from NextGDP and Meteo data. Actually, this is our natural pattern for Antalya, and we used for our heat wave analysis these thresholds, and you can see here our period, next near period we want to use to understand all of the climate change pattern, heat wave change pattern, and this is the results. Meteo thresholds and NASA NextGDP thresholds. You can see the reference period, and you can see our thresholds. Actually, we tried to first of all make a comparison between the default thresholds and our Antalya-based thresholds to make a clear and comprehensive analysis for heat wave workflow in Antalya. You can see here some of the indicators units are decreasing, but this is the real and this is the natural Antalya's behavior from past to present and the future projections. We want to understand here the mid-term or mid-future until 2050. We want to understand the heat wave pattern because of the adaptation actions, because we are a local government and we should act immediately when we saw the clear scientific evidences just like this. And our satellite-derived risk analysis, you can see the Murad Pasha and Murad Pasha's land surface temperature results. I said before, Murad Pasha is the center of the Antalya and more urbanized area, and we should understand the texture of this pattern, of this area actually. You can see a possible heat risk level to vulnerable population. We use WordPop data. Now we are actually modifying WordPop data until 2025 because WordPop is based on the 2022. Now we're calculating pixel by pixel for WordPop. We are using an estimation calculation for the 2025 to understand the vulnerability and possible heat risk level to the vulnerable population. You can see here some LST mean values approximately changing 45 and 50 degrees for the Murad Pasha's texture, and it is very important to understand the vulnerable people's future actions as local government. And you can see here the climate projections based risk mapping. District by district, you can understand the pattern of the Antalya, the classified regions by vulnerable population density. You can see here our period between 1986 and 2015 base. We used relative change, and you can see here some scenarios, RCP 4.5 and RCP 8.5, and we are actually considering 8.5 for Antalya. We discussed with so many scientists and our volunteer scientists too, and we decided to focus RCP 8.5 for our city to understand all of the pattern. And risk evaluation and management. This is our actually experience. What will we do for the future steps? You can see here in the right above our threshold types and our GCMs and RCMs for the future. We use some of the global climate model and regional climate models, and we want to use more to make multi-ensemble model, just like IPCC said. We want to actually reduce model uncertainty. We want to increase sensitivity for the city, and we want to understand the local calibration with using all of the GCMs and RCMs. And also stakeholder involvement. You can see here last week on Friday, we conducted our workshop in CLIMAAX platform, in CLIMAAX framework. You can see here, from science to action on climate change, workshop on Antalya's vulnerability to extreme heat. We organized this workshop, and you can see here, I want to say the numbers because it is very important. We invited 250 people from different institutions, not only municipalities, and we used our governance office to invite. They really focused to this actually results. We showed some scientific evidences to take in action. 200 people responded to participate. 150 people totally engaged from beginning to the end, and 90 surveys filled and completed. We used a digital survey platform to understand the sectoral vulnerabilities in agriculture, tourism, public health, infrastructure, building and energy, multi-dimension table we used, social services, emergency and disaster management planning, and now we actually received all of the results about the vulnerability of the sectors with the experts you can see here, and we used digital ArcGIS survey, digital surveying model, and now we are actually evaluating the results. You can see here some highlighting our implications for actions. We actually attended so many events to talk about our results with the scientific evidences to take in action, and now we have a paper from international congress, and this is very proud for us because we created this scientific evidences using all of the CLIMAAX toolbox, and this is very important. CLIMAAX providing for us, and we are using all of the CLIMAAX rules also, and the reflections on using climate toolbox and next steps. This is very important because we want to combine this CLIMAAX efforts with our previous projects, just like forest fires. You saw here cost projects we have, and we want to combine all of the results, and at the end of the project, we want to reveal heat action plan for the to be climate ready region as Antalya. And now all of the institutions I said before, so many institutions came to this workshop, and they said that we want to be dedicated to this heat action plan. We want to do something for the next generations, and now we are working together for a heat action plan with this scientific evidences, clear scientific evidences. And thank you so much for giving this opportunity to us. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Fulia. Thanks for your inspiring presentation and insightful. Sorry for interrupting, but we needed to have some time for the Q&A and discussion. So now I invite also my colleagues here, Dana Stosparu from Deltares and Majid Niaskar from CMCC, to join me for this discussion and conversation. I can see that we have only a question that is for Joao. So it's basic. Hi Joao, thanks for this presentation. I may have missed it. How are you defining heatwave in this context? So we also saw from Fulia that she was talking about a context-specific definition or threshold for heatwave. So how did you tackle this in your context?
Right now, we're just using the Heat classification. There was some talks about using. We have a national service which also has a definition. It's basically Euroheat. It's very similar, but it's a bit more conservative, as the duration is 5 days, I think, instead of 3. So, but as it's really similar, we're just using Euroheat for now, and we didn't have the need to change it to our national one.
Okay, thank you, Joao. While we are waiting for more questions to come in the chat and we are breaking the ice, I have a few questions, but I leave the floor to Dana and Majid. But also Martin, if he wants to join the conversation, you are free to join us.
Thank you, Fulvio. Thank you also, Fulia and Joao, for the very nice presentations. Maybe a question to Fulia, because your presentation focused a lot on the hazard side of the analysis. Let me just put my. To which extent was the exposure and vulnerability data already available for your project? because that is very important, and it was not clear.
Donna, can you repeat again, because your voice a little bit interrupted by the maybe systematic problem I have or you have.
To which extent did you already have exposure and vulnerability data already available?
Actually, yes, this is a very good question because I said before, hazard and risk assessments are a little bit separated, yeah, in the fundamentally combined, but for the risk assessment, for example, for population data, it is lack of the population, vulnerable population data in Turkey. We have some population data sets, but this is not focused to the vulnerable ages, just like below 5, after 60, for example, elder people and the young children. We are not focusing as a Turkish population data sets, in the Turkish population data sets, because we used WordPop data sets. But WordPop data sets is based on, for the exposure and vulnerability analysis, it is based on 2022. It is a little bit old. Yes, when we compare the population increment of the city, it's not so much, this is not so much failure we have when we take the 2022 data sets from WordPop. But now we actually decided to use 2025 data sets of WordPop. It's not totally included now to the data sets of WordPop, but actually our team member we discussed together, and we decided to make an analogical calculations pixel by pixel. We want to compare past actually increment of the population, and we want to make a calculation for the future population of the 2025. That means exposure and vulnerability analysis will be a little bit clear when we compare 2022 population data sets. And the other is land surface temperature. We used Landsat, actually, Landsat satellite imagery. Actually, you saw here Murat Pasha specifically, but now we are working for 19 districts. I have some time the restriction to give some details, but in the reporting you will see the 19 districts we actually studied exposure and vulnerability analysis. The first is heat wave. When we analyze heat wave methodology to our city, we saw all of the urbanized centers encountered with high heat wave characteristics. Peri-urban and rural areas are not totally exposed by heat waves we saw after the CLIMAAX Toolbox. And now we're focusing actually for LSD and urban heat island impact to the urbanized areas, but we want to reveal actually with our team members the other rural areas to understand urban high island impact differences between urbanized exposure and the rural exposure, I can say.
All right.
Thank you so much, Fulia. Thank you, Dana. I can see that there are no questions in the chat so far, so I don't know if Majid or Martin has some specific questions or comment.
Thank you, Fulvio. I just would like to just in a short sentences to know like if you want to do it again, what or which parts of the work do you change based on the experience that you have? It's an open question to region, so feel free to jump in. Just very short. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the question is for both of you, maybe. It's
I can
so
I can
Joe,
start maybe.
yeah.
For me, the question, yes. Thank you.
So right now the Heatwaves workflow, the way we're developing it, and the way our additions to it, the way we're developing them is for them to be reusable. So the focus, for example, on the LST mapping, we did with the M2M API for USGS. So we can just input the shapefile and get all that again with other time constraints and with other for other times. So for the Heatwaves workflow, and we're actually designing our addictions to it to be as easy to use as possible. So this can be reutilized by other regions or by the same region multiple times in the future to do other work.
Thank you.
Maybe I can also add to this because the original workflow provides data from the RS lab, as you can see. And nowadays, you can also download the data from the Landsat 9, not only the Landsat 8. So they are available also there.
But maybe I can add one more thing. When we use RS Lab, for example, this is just like the challenge for the people. Area restrictions we have to integrate because, for example, for Antalya 19 districts, it's not possible to integrate all of the area to the CLIMAAX platform because we used Landsat imagery as external product to integrate to the CLIMAAX platform. And our team member now working about and they integrated clearly to all of the satellite imagery as a land surface temperature to the CLIMAAX platform, and they revealed all of the outputs after it. But when we decided to use, for example, RS Lab, this is just like the a little bit challenging thing for the technical people. Actually, I can say.
Yes, I agree completely. It's RS Lab is better for the smaller cities, but for the bigger areas, it's I think Zhao was telling about the API download is better approach.
Thank you, thank you. I
Cool.
couldn't help but notice that there are two questions, Fulvio, in the chat. So maybe we can also cover them. The first question is if Joao, if you have used the data from Landsat 9 imagery. I think you covered that in your slide, but if you want, you can like
Yeah.
repeat it. It's okay.
So from end to end, we did the collection not through RS Lab. We did we used the API. We submitted for a license to use for the USGS data. So that was the first because the RS Lab didn't cover the constraints we needed for the whole region, and so we did that. And to actually get all the timestamps we also needed for the analysis we did. And afterwards we just used the collection. So the LST was already calculated. We just had to do some transformations and some simple transformations. It was really easy data wise. So we just scaled them to actually represent what we wanted, and then we got the cartography, the maps from that.
Thank you, thank you. And maybe the last question in the chat is that is the workflow based only on Euroheat data, or can be applied for any city worldwide? Martin, can you say something on that?
Yeah, for the CLIMAAX, we mainly use the Euroheat data, but after some adjustment of the code, you can also use the data for other part of the world. It depends if you have the climate projections, because we have only this source, so we use only the Euroheat.
Yes, yes, exactly. If I want to add something, the workflows mostly work with Eurocordex, which covers the European countries. So the code is available with just some modification. You can also use it with another data sets, climate projection for the rest of the world. So far so good. Fulvio, do you want to say something? Because there is no other question to my
I think
knowledge.
no, Dana raised her hand, so I'll leave
Okay.
the floor to her.
Sorry, Dana.
Yes, I have one question for Joao and one for Fulia. Joao, you mentioned very nicely that you did an interesting study on vegetation effects on temperature. To which extent do you think that these results could be also used or be useful for other regions? Is vegetation very much typical to the local region, or can this be also shared with other regions applying the Heatwaves workflow?
Okay, so the current developments we did, they're applicable to other regions because it's only focused on the vegetation indices, so it's species agnostic. It doesn't know which species are in the region. What we actually verified doing this workflow and this development was applied to the other three regions as well. They're all studying heatwave as it's a big problem in Portugal. So some of the things we did in workshops with the stakeholders, in talking with the stakeholders, they represented the local problems that could be the cause for the analysis. So our analysis served as a way for them to actually verify the causes of the problems they have. So in one of the workflows, we actually had one of the persons there, one of the stakeholders there, which actually attacked municipal plans for planting. They had a lot of cut trees, and they actually attacked that decision for the municipal plans because of the data. The data showcased them to the way that it. We did this for this city in specific is one of the hottest in Portugal. It's Beja. It's in Alentejo. It's one of the hottest in Portugal, and it's a real problem for them. They suffer from it every year, and then every season, every summer season, and it was nice to see that our data was something that they actually that they could identify, they could relate with it, and that they could find things to actually plan for in the future based on what they were seeing and on what the data told them. And it was very interesting to see that. So it's applicable to every region. It's mostly satellite based, so those satellites work worldwide. So it works for other regions as well.
All right. Oh, that's very good. Good. And maybe Fulia, very impressive that you had 200 people in the workshop. That's really a large effort. Congratulations. I was curious, can you share some insights from the workshop, and how does it inform some follow-up work for you?
Actually, I couldn't show all of the pictures and all of the results in this presentation because I know Fulvio will be interrupted. I can understand, but some of the insights from this event. Actually, we really afforded so much before this event, and so much labor we did to gather all of the people together. This is not only municipal staff. This is from the national government based institutional staffs. They really came to the event, and they wanted to be engaged, first of all, because before this event, before this workshop, we had some events in Antalya, local events, just like GIS Day, National GIS Day, and some of the workshops. We introduced CLIMAAX in municipalities and also in the public areas, and also in environmental board. Actually, so many people were so curious about our scientific evidences to take a part in the future steps. And our milestone was creating a heat action plan after the CLIMAAX project, because local governments or municipalities, we should understand they need, first of all, clear scientific evidences to take an action, to create an action plans. For example, for Sustainable Energy Climate Action Plan, they gathered so many stakeholders from 2020. So many stakeholders, and first of all, they revealed some scientific evidences about the climate change-based disasters, and then they created an action plan, climate energy and climate action plan. This is just like it. After our solve what we done in CLIMAAX platform, and when we solve our results, we decided to announce all of the results to the local stakeholders to take an action together. Because I said before, 2040, 2030, it's not so far for the city to be climate ready region focused on the heat waves, and this is the vulnerability of the city. For example, outdoor workers, elderly people, children, they're vulnerable. And in this event, all of the people, all of the experts said that we should be together for these vulnerable groups, and they separated clearly these vulnerable groups for us to take an action. For elderly groups, for stray animals, for example, they said. And we classified all of the vulnerabilities step by step by using this digital survey platform. I said before, ArcGIS survey we used, and 19 people totally engaged to the survey platform, and we separated all of the groups, all of the people into some sectors, table by table, and we worked as the moderator. All of the CLIMAAX members and some moderators from the university, we worked together as the moderation of the tables, and we received the results from them. Clear results, not manipulated, This is clear and totally can be engageable to our scientific evidences for the heat action plan. This is the basement, scientific evidences from CLIMAAX platform and other outputs from the sectoral analysis of vulnerabilities, and that means the action. And now we are actually dedicating ourselves for the future reporting term to create this fundamental for the heat action plan, I can say. And this will be very unique for the city.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Dana, also for spotting these two aspects of their presentation that were valuable to further discuss. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. It has been quite an interesting, insightful webinar. So I want, first of all, to thank you, thanks all our speakers from Martin to Joao and Fulia. It was wonderful to have you in this webinar, and also my colleagues Dana and Majid for joining me today. So I want to wrap up this session, but of course I need to wrap up by focusing on our upcoming events. So let's say that today marks the start of this new series of webinars on hazard and the workflows dedicated to this. So we will have different webinars that are coming on December 11, 2025, usual time. We will be at a webinar dedicated to wildfire risk assessment. We are finalizing the preparation, but meanwhile, we have a link for registration that will be dropped in the chat. And February 2026, the 19th on river floods, but more hazard specific session with workflows and regional experiences will be organized for the next year. In the meantime, please mark your calendar for these events. And as usual, just a quick message on how to engage with the community of practice. You can, of course, join our LinkedIn group, but also you can take our surveys. Again, links will be dropped in the chat, and also you can subscribe to the community of practice by going into the CLIMAAX website, the community section. You can put your email there, and we will write you with invitation and updates from the community. So that's all from me. So thank you once again for joining us today. Again, thank you all for your participation and to our speakers and moderators for today's session. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye now.